Have you ever felt overwhelmed trying to navigate this digital world of medical coding ebooks? Say no more, because today I'm going to be going through an instructional guide for the 2024 ICD-10 CM ebook. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Victoria Mull. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator. And on my channel, I provide lots of tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. If you've been here for a while, you know that I have been talking a lot about using ebooks versus paper books. We're in this sort of transitional period right now where all of the exams are still in paper format, but they are testing using ebooks for the exam. And we might see more push towards utilization of the ebooks because that's what the industry and the employers are looking for. They're looking for coders that can use digital tools. As far as ebooks, I recommend getting the ones through the AAPC. This is the Vital Source Bookshelf app. I love it. I have access to my books all the time right by the touch of my phone. So it's great to just be able to whip something out on my phone and be able to read through the ebook and also have it on my desktop and different applications. I can log on to it from anywhere. One of the first things you need to do is set up your account on Vital Source Bookshelf. Now, that can be done on their website. You could also purchase the books then through their website or from the AAPC. Oftentimes, if you're an AAPC member, you'll get a better discount on the books through your AAPC membership. Now, in order to access that, you do need to redeem a code. If you purchase it through the AAPC, they will give you a redemption code. Where you use that is down here. Once you're logged into your account, you can hit the redeem codes. That will bring up somewhere where I would recommend you copy and paste that from your email directly, and you can hit that redeem button and it will show up here in your library. Now you can see I have a lot of different resources available in my library. So you can access all of your books in your library. You can download them for offline use as well. So if you don't see the book you're looking for here, just scroll down or go over to your My Books. And if you're looking for different books, you can go into their store and look for books in the store icon over here as well. So let's get into the ICD-10 CM book. When you get into the book, anytime it will show you where you last stopped. If it's your first time, it will start you on that first page. Now you'll see over here on the right-hand side is the content of the book. Left-hand side is our directory of all of the things that we can find in the book. And we'll start here at the top. Here is your title page. Actually, you can go back one more and even just see the cover of the book. It zooms in all cute for you. There are 2,134 pages. If you want to go to a specific page, you can type that down here and go to that page number. But let's start out here on our index here on the left-hand side. So we have our title page. We have contents. You can see here, we're going to start out with our coding guidelines for reporting after the contents. Now, all of this stuff you see here in blue are hyperlinks. So if you want to look for something and you want to click here on, let's say you don't remember the definition of an excludes code, you can go here for your definition of your excludes codes. It's going to take you right to that now with the hyperlink. This did not exist for the 2023 and earlier versions. It just started in 2024 to have all of these fantastic hyperlinks where now even if you search a code, which I'll show you, it'll take you to that code with a hyperlink. So first, we're going to start off with our guidelines for coding and reporting. If you click the little down arrow here, it will open up all of the different subsections in here. So here's our guidelines for conventions for ICD-10 CM. We can expand that even further down to our format and structure, use of codes for reporting purposes, etc. If you want to close those up, you can hit the button again and it will close that section. So section 1 is our conventions, general coding guidelines, and chapter-specific guidelines. So if we want to go over our general coding guidelines, and then here's our chapter-specific guidelines. So if we're looking for our chapter-specific guidelines for our cardiology section, we're going to go over here, diseases of the circulatory system, and we can expand those out, or we can just click right there onto page 12, and we can get there from that click. After our chapter-specific guidelines, we have section 2, which is our selection of the principal diagnosis. So those are inpatient coding guidelines. We have section 3, reporting additional diagnoses, section 4, diagnostic coding and reporting guidelines for outpatient services, appendices, etc. and then also the figures, the little demonstrations that they have in the book. Those thought maps and illustrations are all in the ebook as well. So after our coding guidelines, we have our preface, the list of features, how to use the ICD-10 CM book, as well as the code structures, the different volumes included in the code book, code diagnosis with confidence following this approach, and then some other things that are specific to the AAPC edition of the ICD-10 CM book. Now, here is the list of the symbols and conventions. So here's our symbols and conventions. If you look here, there's all of the icons you will see in this edition of the ICD-10 CM book. Now, a nice thing to note is you also have them on the codes themselves. So let's say I go down here to this particular page of ICD-10 CM. That listing, that directory is down here on the page as well. You can zoom that in case you can't see that tiny little font, and you can get that whole legend of all of the different icons and what they mean by clicking on that and expanding it. You can even go in a little bit further, and then this X over here will take you out of it and back into your code book. After the symbols and conventions, there's all your anatomical illustrations, which are very handy specifically for the exam. If they ask you something about the heart and you can't remember parts of the heart wall, for example, you can expand that right there, zoom in, and it will show you all the layers of the heart so you can verify that you are on the right track. After the anatomical illustrations, you'll see the index to diseases and injuries. Now, that is also known as our alphabetical index. You can see all the codes there, A through Z. If you want to search something by the alphabet letter, you can go to jump over to J's, for example, to look up in the index that code. Now, again, with the 2024 edition, we can have all these nice hyperlinks that will take us right to where we're looking. So let's say the patient has newborn jaundice. We're here under jaundice, and we're looking for then underneath that N for newborn, P59.9. And when we click on that, it will take us right to that code in the tabular list, neonatal jaundice unspecified. Now, after our index to diseases and injuries is our table of neoplasms. One thing I will point out to you about the table of neoplasms, though, is there's no hyperlinks here. I don't know why that happened. I don't know if there was some sort of technical glitch or if this is maybe just a table and they weren't able to add hyperlinks into tables. But these, you would actually have to go and find them in the index because they do not have the hyperlinks to the codes for the neoplasm table, nor with the table of drugs and chemicals, but they do have them for the index to external causes of injury. So in that particular index, they do have the hyperlinks available, but we won't have them for the table of neoplasms or for the table of drugs and chemicals. So after our alphabetic index, that's when we start getting into our tabular list, all the different codes in orders from A to Z. So they each start out with some chapter-specific information like the chapter-specific guidelines before getting into the code. So that's why when you click the little down arrow there, it will give you the sections for, okay, chapter-specific guidelines, or are you looking to start at the actual codes? After I kind of go through the index, I'll tell you some more about some of these search features and highlights that we have that we can navigate to some codes a little bit easier, and then also some considerations about maybe when we shouldn't do that. So here's our chapters 1 through 22. You can see I have that one open, so it's taking a little longer to scroll through. And then our appendices, Appendix A for our long-term use of drugs, Appendix B for summary of 2024 ICD-10 CM changes, guideline tips, and then, of course, the back cover. Part of the proceeds this year are all going to the AAPC Hardship Fund. If you're not familiar with the Hardship Fund, what it does is it helps members who are going through financial hardships. It might help them maintain their membership. It might help them with if they need some CEUs or things like exam prep tools. It does not pay for things like if you want to get an additional certification in most cases, but it might help with certain members that are having financial hardships. So I want to scroll back up to some of this information in here because you'll notice that while we can navigate through here and find things in our alphabetic index, we also have this search tool. So let's start here in our alphabetic index. One of the things with the ebooks I've noticed is sometimes it's hard to tell as you're scrolling through what category you're under as far as indentations. So here with abdomen, it's not too hard because there's only 3 little indentations under there of terms. Now, as we're going through things like maybe fracture, there's going to be a lot of them. So it might be harder once you're kind of indented to remember what section you're under for the indentations. They do color code them, but again, it's just sometimes difficult to tell, especially if you're doing something like a search here. So if I go to um, fracture ankle, let's see if something will come up. So fracture ankle, it's coming up with both terms. So fracture, see fracture ankle. Let's see if we can find what we're looking for. See fracture ankle, and let's see if it will take us over to that when we see this category. See fracture ankle. So when we get to this page, it's hard to tell like exactly where we are in the book right now, right? Because I have to scroll up and go, okay, I'm under leg something. Where under leg am I? Surgical, shafts, lower, is this fracture? I'm not sure. I'm actually not quite sure where I am right now. Probably under fracture somewhere. Fibula? No? Yes? So you may find that sometimes it's easier to actually start at that alphabetic index versus using the search tools, depending on what it is you're looking for, because now we have a lot of different options under here for ankle fracture. Now, of course, if we're looking for something like cholecystitis, where there's not going to be a lot of variations of that, we might have some better luck. Cholecystitis. So gallbladder, see cholecystitis acute. This is all page 62, it looks like. But then we can also look, okay, so here's where it's telling us that is in the alphabetic index. See, it's under that C. But we might be able to find it in our tabular list. So here's where we get into our tabular list. Here's our codes K80 through K87. And actually, we have 67 results in there. So maybe it's not as helpful as I thought it would be. But we could go over to our index as well and go, okay, well, let's look under our section C for cholecystitis and see if we can get there from one of these options. It might take a little bit of searching, but it could potentially, once you get the hang of it, be easier than flipping through pages in the book. So here we go, cholecystitis, acute, maybe that's the one I'm looking for, and I can click right over to the K80.42, and then right here I am, and I can see everything I need to still in the book. It still has the color coding. It still has the legend. It still has even the illustrations. It still has the guidelines in it. And here's the cool thing. If you take this K80.42 and then click on that, you know where it's going to take you? It's going to take you to AAPC's Codify. So if you have a subscription to Codify, everything will be there at the tip of your fingers as far as Codify information. So once I got logged in, I can see here all of the official long descriptions, my code also, use also. There is all the different forums where they have that code in them. What else do we have down here? Related articles, latest news, anything that would include that code that they have access to on Codify. If you have a Codify account, you can access it directly by clicking that code on your ebook. And that can be a huge time saver versus finding the code in the paper book, typing it into the Codify software, and then finding it that way. It's just one click away. Now, some other cool features are fonts. If you are someone that has some visual disabilities and you need things to be in a larger font, or you have very sharp vision and you can want the smaller font, you can change your font size. You can change it if you want darker or if you want lighter, even if you want certain different tones. These are all standard settings in Bookshelf. You can even change the font. I don't know that I would want to mess with that too much, but yeah, it is an option that you can do. You can also, if you ever mess it up by accident and you're like, oh gosh, I just want to go back to the standard settings, you can reset it to the publisher format. You can also set custom highlights. So let's say I found this code and I use it a lot, so I just want to color it green. I can call this my coding notes. I don't have to call it Groovy Green. I can call it coding notes and save it. And then I can highlight something there. Let's see if I want to make note of maybe this use additional code note, and I can highlight that in my coding notes, and now it shows in green. You can also make general notes. Like let's say I wanted to put a note right here. I could hit add note and I could put whatever I want here. Here's my coding note example. And save that right there. And it'll show here in the margins of the book. Now, when I'm closed out of that, you can see the little note icon over here, so I can open that back up. Another feature, but again, we have some warnings about it, is let's say I don't know what calculus is because I'm a new coder. I'm still learning some med term. I can hit define on there. Now, because this is a medical book, not everything will be in the definitions, and some of them aren't quite right, because instead of telling us that a calculus is a type of stone, it tells us that calculus is a part of mathematics. So use a little bit of caution with some of those features. The other thing we could do is look it up in Wikipedia. So that will bring us again to the wrong definition about mathematics. But for some, it will give you the correct information. Let's say I want to look under what bile is. It tells me that bile is a bitter green-brown liquid formed in the liver, which helps you to digest fats. You can also create a flashcard if you would like. So there is an ability to create flashcards. You can develop them for different certification exams or for different chapters. So you can name your deck. So let's say this is my CPC study deck. I have here bile. I could copy and paste that definition of bile and put that right here and save that right there. So let's say you study for your CPC and then you want to go right for your CRC. You could create a whole other study deck for CRC. Another cool feature they have is the read aloud. So let's say you're getting familiar with the guidelines and you just want to hear them out loud a few times. You can click on them and you can say read aloud from here, and it will start relaying the auditory version of the ebook. Now, the voices that they have are not the best. You can change them. So if you hit here the settings, there's different versions of the reader. There's David, there's Mark, and there's Zira. They're not probably as adaptive some of the AI versions that you might be able to get of different voices. You can change the speed though. Let's say you want it to read really, really fast. You can do that and just have it go through at your pace. If you like slower speaking, you can turn the volume speed to be lower, or you can set the speed higher. Another feature here is if you look over here where there's kind of like bookmark and star is, those are all your highlights, your notes, your bookmarks, and your flashcards. So if you need to access your highlights, you can get to them from here, and it will show you all the different things that you have highlighted in different sections. It will break them down for you. So here are your highlights. Here are your notes. And then you also have bookmarks. If you have a certain page bookmarked, it will appear here as well. Your flashcards appear here. And one of the interesting things I do also want to tell you is that you can export these, print them out. But if you click this little plus button over here, this is really something else. You can share your highlights with your coding friends. So let's say you've highlighted a lot of cool stuff for your CPC exam, and you have a friend that's about to sit for their CPC exam, and you're like, hey, I want to show you all the stuff I highlighted because this helped me out. You can give them a share link and have them copy all of your highlights into their book. Or you can also enter the email of someone who you know has highlights and potentially share them and see their highlights. Now, by default, these are set to public, but let's say you want to share these publicly, but let's say these are your secret ones and you don't want people to see the stuff you have highlighted in yellow. Maybe that is job specific and you don't want them to know your specific job's secrets of maybe some internal policies you might have. You can unclick that public box and then no one will see that, and they can just see the ones that you have public to share. Now, if you're ever trying to navigate through and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where my index got to, where did it go? You can close out of these little sections here and read this larger. If you need to get back to your index, it is over here with these little 3 lines, or hamburger menu as you sometimes hear it referred. Now, in addition to the search icon that you have over here, you can also just do a Control F. So let's say I'm looking for something in here that says excludes, and I just want to find it in the section that I'm currently at. I can do a Control F and there's 19 searches there, and I can go through my usual just search functions that I have through my browser and look for it that way. One thing I will tell you is you cannot print the whole book. That's not an option that you'll have. You can't go through and print the the entire code book. It often will let you print through a page or two maybe, but certainly not the whole book. So if you're thinking that you're going to be able to get this and print out an entire copy and share it with your friend, first off, I don't know that that would be cost effective to print out over 2,000 pages, but it's disabled to be able to print the entire book. You can, however, copy paste certain chunks of information. Like let's say I'm doing a presentation and I want to have the excludes one definition in there. I can copy it. I can go into a Google Doc and I can paste it right in there. I think there is a limit to how much you can copy paste. So you can't copy the entire book and paste it in. I think it will let you copy paste maybe 2 or 3 pages at a time. But it's very handy if you are trying to send something to a provider and you want to have the exact verbiage, or if you're making a presentation and you want to make sure that you have the code and the definition down correctly. So I hope this helped you out. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a walkthrough of the CPT and HCPCS ebooks as well. If you are looking for information on how to use and how to look up codes in the book, check out this video over here. I will see you guys in the next video. And until then, just keep on coding on.